They didn't choose you, not because you weren't enough, but because they weren't ready to recognize what they had right in front of them. We are not held back by the love we didn't receive in the past, but by the love we're not extending in the present, said Marianne Williamson. Your avoidant ex wasn't rejecting you. They were running from their own fear of intimacy. And now that fear is starting to eat away at them. Quietly. Constantly. At first it looks like they're winning. They seem carefree, unbothered, thriving even. You're left questioning your worth, feeling like you were nothing but a stepping stone. But what you didn't see was the silent war building inside them. Because obsession doesn't happen when you're forgotten. It happens when you're unforgettable. According to research, around 70% of avoidant individuals report feelings of regret or obsessive thoughts about a past partner after a breakup. That's right. The colder they were, the harder they fall later. But why does it happen? Why now, after they made it so clear they didn't choose you then? Today, I'm going to reveal the 7 undeniable reasons why your avoidant ex is low-key obsessed with you, even if they're too proud to admit it. Some of these reasons will shock you. Some will make you realize you had more power all along than you ever knew. And trust me, once you understand these truths, you'll never look at this breakup the same way again. Friedrich Nietzsche said it best. Invisible threads are the strongest ties. Your connection with them didn't disappear. It simply went underground, becoming something they can't escape from. They can try dating others, focusing on their career, traveling the world. But at 2 in the morning, when everything goes quiet, you are the thought that won't leave. If you've ever wondered why they watch your stories but don't text, why they post vague emotional quotes without tagging you, why they act fine but seem hollow behind their smiles, you're about to get your answers. And when you do, you'll finally feel the closure you were looking for. Not because they gave it to you, but because you reclaimed your own power. Stick with me all the way to the end of this video, because not only are we going deep into their psychology, but I'm also going to show you how to flip the script permanently. How to shift from being the one who was left to the one who becomes unforgettable. This will change everything. If you're ready to reclaim your power, smash that like button, subscribe, and comment below. I am unforgettable. And hey, if you catch the secret quote today, invisible threads are the strongest ties, drop it in the comments too. The reason 1, you triggered emotions. They weren't ready to feel. Let's get one thing straight. Your avoidant ex didn't walk away because you lacked value. They walked away because you made them feel something real. And real scared them. Avoidant types crave connection on a deep, subconscious level. But when it actually shows up, when someone like you offers stability, vulnerability, and emotional depth, it terrifies them. Why? Because deep down they've spent their whole lives associating closeness with pain, pressure, or loss of control. So instead of leaning in, they bolt. As Brené Brown said, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. But to the avoidant, vulnerability feels like weakness. And when you opened your heart, showed up fully, and gave them a love that asked for nothing but honesty in return, they didn't know how to handle it. You didn't do anything wrong. You were consistent, loving, emotionally available. But those qualities activated something inside them. It's not that they didn't want you, it's that they didn't know how to receive you. You reminded them of what they lacked within themselves. And instead of facing that mirror, they ran from the reflection. But here's the plot twist. Time doesn't erase emotional activation, it intensifies it. The further they run, the more they start to realize that the feelings you stirred up weren't temporary. In fact, they begin to crave that emotional safety again. The same presence they once avoided becomes the one they can't stop replaying in their mind. So now, they're obsessing, silently, desperately, wondering how you made them feel so alive, so seen and so exposed, while also making them feel safe. And they're kicking themselves for pushing that away. You became a standard they didn't realize they needed until it was gone. As you'll see in the next reasons, this obsession doesn't fade. It builds until they're left with only two options: evolve or stay haunted by what they lost. Secret quote: "You didn't scare them. Their own feelings did." Type that in the comments if you know exactly what I mean. Reason 2. You didn't chase them, and that shattered their ego. Avoidants are used to one thing: being in control. They're often the ones who pull away, who dictate the emotional distance, who expect others to close the gap when they retreat. But you didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't fall into the trap. And whether they show it or not, that shook them to their core. You see, many avoidant exes secretly expect you to collapse after they leave. They expect dramatic texts, emotional breakdowns, desperate attempts to fix it. When that doesn't happen, their carefully crafted illusion of control starts to crack. Now they're the one refreshing your profile, wondering why you're not running after them, wondering if they misjudged your value, or worse, if you realized your worth. Psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula says, "Nothing makes an emotionally unavailable person more obsessed than someone who doesn't need them." And that's exactly what happened. Your silence wasn't just silence. It was a statement. I'm not here to prove my worth. You either see it or you don't. In the beginning, they might have felt powerful walking away. But that power quickly turned into confusion, then into obsession. Why? Because when you didn't chase, you flipped the script. You interrupted the pattern. You became the one thing they didn't expect. Unpredictable. Now you're not just a memory, you're an enigma. Someone they can't read, can't control, and suddenly can't stop thinking about. They don't know if you've moved on, if you're angry or worse, if you're indifferent, and nothing haunts the avoidant more than being forgotten by someone they expected to break. Say it with me in the comments. My silence is power. And if you've ever had your ex view your story at 2 a.m. but never message you, you're not crazy. You're just living rent-free in the mind of someone who's starting to realize they played themselves. Reason 3. You were a mirror. They couldn't face avoidant. People aren't running from you. They're running from themselves. And when they were with you, something terrifying happened. You reflected their deepest emotional wounds back at them. You see, you weren't just a partner, you were a mirror. Your emotional availability, your consistency, your desire for honest connection, it exposed everything they've spent years trying to avoid. You made them feel seen, and for someone with an avoidant attachment style, being seen can feel like a threat. Author James Baldwin once wrote, "Love takes off masks that we fear we cannot live without and know we cannot live within." You pulled off their mask without even trying, just by being you, just by loving them without judgment. And that was too much for them. They couldn't face their own guilt. their unresolved trauma, their fear of intimacy. So they blamed the connection. They blamed you. They told themselves things like, "It's not the right time," or "I need to find myself." Because the truth was harder. You triggered healing they weren't ready for. But here's the twist. They haven't stopped thinking about you because of that. The connection you offered wasn't just romantic, it was transformational. And people never forget the person who forced them to face their truth, even if they had to walk away to avoid it. They didn't choose you then, because they weren't ready to grow. Now, they can't stop obsessing, because your presence made them confront a version of themselves they can't unsee. Reason 4. You didn't chase them, and that shattered their ego. Here's the harsh truth most avoidant exes never expect. You were supposed to chase them. They pulled away, created distance, maybe even pushed your buttons, because deep down, they believed you'd come running, that you'd beg, that you'd fight to prove your worth. But you didn't. And that silence? It hit harder than any words ever could. Avoidants are driven by control. They often leave not to end things completely, but to test how much power they still hold over you. When you don't react the way they anticipated, when you go quiet instead of scrambling for answers, they start to unravel. Suddenly, the narrative they built, "I'm the one in control," begins to collapse. As Jay Shetty said, sometimes you don't move on because you're waiting for closure. Other times you don't move on because you became someone's ego boost instead of their partner. When you broke that dynamic, when you stopped feeding their ego, you also took away the very thing they were using to regulate their own sense of worth. They didn't just lose your affection, they lost the illusion that they were irreplaceable. And that is when the obsession begins. Now they're watching, lurking, wondering, why aren't they chasing me? Have they really moved on? Did I lose something that won't come back? That unbothered energy you're radiating? It's magnetic. And it's forcing them to face a reality they never prepared for. You're not the one who needed them. They were the one who needed you. And if that secret quote hits you, type it in the comments. Silence broke their ego. Reason 5. Your growth made you unreachable. At first, they didn't choose you because they thought you'd always be there. Safe, predictable, waiting. But the moment you started to grow, really grow, they felt something shift. Suddenly, the version of you they once had access to doesn't exist anymore. When you stopped chasing, stopped explaining, stopped needing their validation, and that's exactly when the obsession began. They never expected you to heal. They never imagined you'd glow up emotionally, mentally, and maybe even physically. But now, you've become a mystery again, and avoidants are drawn to what they can't control. As Robert Greene, author of The Art of Seduction, says, absence increases respect and honor. Your silence, your evolution, your refusal to stay stuck in the past, it commands respect. And now they're watching, possibly in silence, wondering how the person they left behind suddenly became the one they can't stop thinking about. Avoidants don't obsess over what's easy, they obsess over what's slipping away. And when they sense that you're no longer emotionally available, it triggers the very fear they were running from in the first place. Abandonment. Ironic, isn't it? They feared being consumed by closeness, but now they fear being forgotten entirely. They scroll through your social media like a ghost, watch your stories but never comment, maybe even ask mutual friends about you. They're desperate for a glimpse into your world, not because you're theirs, but because you're not. That loss of access is eating away at them, quietly, obsessively. You're not the same person they left, and that's exactly why they can't stop thinking about you. Your growth didn't just change the game, it ended it. The reason 6. Your silence became louder than words. At first, your absence felt like a relief to them. Freedom, space, control. That's exactly what avoidants think they want, until they get it. Then the silence starts to stretch, and it becomes something they didn't expect. A mirror. You stopped reaching out. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. And that silence? It said everything they weren't ready to hear. Avoidants are used to people trying harder when they pull away. They expect you to plead for answers, fight for closure, or leave the door cracked open. But when you gave them nothing but distance, that's when the obsession began. As Lao Tzu once said, silence is a source of great strength. And yours? It shook them, because in that silence they were finally forced to sit with their own emotions, without distraction, without validation, without escape. And the scariest part, they realized you weren't waiting for them. This is when they start obsessively checking your social media, asking mutual friends about you, or posting passive-aggressive stories, hoping to provoke a response. They act unbothered, but behind the scenes, they're spiraling. Because nothing haunts the avoidant like being truly ignored by the one person who saw them completely. They remember the way you listened, the way you made them feel safe, the way you never asked them to be perfect, just present. And now, all they're left with is silence. And that silence? It's screaming at them. They thought distance would make them forget you. Instead, it made them remember you more clearly than ever. The reason 7. They finally see you thriving, and it sparks a fear of missing out. Nothing rattles an avoidant ex more than realizing the person they once kept at arm's length is now glowing up without them. At first, they were certain you'd wait around. But the moment they scroll past your latest photo, see you laughing with new friends, or hear that you landed that promotion, a cold truth hits. Life is moving on, fast, and they're not part of it. Frank Sinatra famously said, "The best revenge is massive success." Your newfound confidence, the hobbies you've picked up, the people you've met, these are all markers of a version of you they never expected to face. Psychologists call it scarcity anxiety. Once something or someone seems less available, its perceived value skyrockets. In one study, 64% of adults admitted to social media stalking an ex. Most reported heightened feelings of loss when they saw that ex thriving. That ticking fear is now pulsing through your avoidant ex's veins. It's not just that you look happier, it's that your happiness highlights what they lack. The safe distance they kept suddenly feels like exile. They replay those silent nights and realized opportunities, thinking, was pushing them away the biggest mistake of my life? This internal panic fuels their obsession. They check your stories first, linger on your posts, and dissect every caption for meaning. The more evidence they see of your growth, the more intense their fixation becomes. Here's the kicker. You didn't become magnetic by plotting revenge. You focused on your own expansion, your fitness journey, your side hustle, that weekend trip with friends. Each move reaffirms that your world is rich and full, with or without them. That reality collides with their old narrative that they were the prize. Now the roles have flipped, and the imbalance is deafening. Maya Angelou put it perfectly. We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty. Your ex might see the butterfly now, but they underestimated the metamorphosis. They're drawn to your brightness, yet haunted by the knowledge that re-entering your orbit now requires effort, vulnerability, and humility. 3 things avoidants struggle with most. So, while they wrestle with FOMO, remember, your progress is not a performance for them. It's the natural outcome of choosing yourself. Keep soaring. And if you catch yourself wondering whether they truly grasp what they lost, just recall today's secret quote: "Massive success is the sweetest revenge." Drop that line in the comments if you feel it, and let's keep this glow-up rolling. You've just learned the 7 hidden levers that flip an avoidant ex from meh to I can't stop thinking about you. The playbook is in your hands. Use it to protect your heart, not to chase theirs. Now it's time to lock in what you've learned and step fully into your power. Smash the like. So this message reaches every heart still stuck on someone who couldn't see their value. Subscribe plus. Hit the because the next drop will teach you how to turn this newfound leverage into long-term self-mastery. Comment below with today's mantra: I own my worth. Let it be your digital fingerprint of self-respect. Bonus challenge: slip the secret quote, "Self-worth is never up for negotiation," somewhere in your comment. I'll be combing the thread and pinning my favorites. Remember what Maya Angelou warned us: never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. Starting today, that's no longer your story. So take a deep breath, hold your head high, and step into a future where you're the one who chooses, never the one waiting to be chosen. I'll see you in the next video. Stay legendary.